Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with Symphogear Ep7. And yeah, uh, we're getting to this rather quickly after the last one, but that's just because I want to see what happens. I'm invested in this. Last time we got, um, a lot of it felt like a transitional episode. It didn't feel like a lot was going on, just like and I'm not saying that there wasn't anything going on because we definitely were still getting some character work with Miku and specifically her relationship to Hibiki, but it felt a lot slower during a lot of it than the other episodes previously had been. Pretty much until the end when Chris comes back and attacks and Hibiki has to fight her again. This time it ends up happening in front of Miku, though. Miku's in danger, Hibiki has to save her, and so Miku now knows. She knows what Hibiki has been doing. Doesn't know all the details and everything, of course, but um, she's clearly in the know on things, which makes that opening scene of episode 1 more interesting. So that means since we haven't seen the entire gravestone stuff come back yet, when she visited the gravestone, she knew that Hibiki, was doing all of this. And um, I think it might have said something about that in the first episode. Um, it's been a while, if I'm being completely honest. And I don't remember exactly what it said. Uh, but at the same time, I just feel that I just feel like we're gonna get an explanation, but I don't know if it's gonna happen by the end of this season. That might be like a future season thing. I don't know, but we'll see. Um, it just seems like that's a big thing, you know. And I want to make it. I want to make my feelings on this clear because of the entire thing with Owl House in the past. Where I really thought they should have addressed Camila finding out about Luz being gone or not a lot earlier than they did. I feel like there should have been that it should have been touched on before it was, and it was actually the reason I originally dropped the series, if you remember, which I acknowledge now was absolutely stupid, but I want to make it clear I'm not dropping Simple here because of this or anything. I'm just like saying that I understand that it's probably going to be addressed later on, that I'm not necessarily expecting it to be addressed right away. Um, at first, I was in the thought process, though, that Hibiki was going to fake her death to hide this all from Miku. That it was going to be a way of, making it so that Miku doesn't have to worry about her anymore and that she can, fulfill her duties without also having to worry about balancing out her life with Miku. Now, that could still technically take place. It's just the only difference would be that Miku would have known, and she just wouldn't know in the current day that Hibiki is still alive and acting in this role. It raises a lot of questions, and again, we'll probably get our answers. I'm, I guess, confident enough in that. Um, but I'm definitely interested to see where this goes. Because Chris very clearly needs to be rescued from Finé, as we now know her, um, or whatever her fake name is that she's going by when working for the, you know, good guys. I can't remember it. It's escaping me, but yeah. Um, what is her goal? What is her game? I just don't understand. I think that's the thing that I'm most curious about right now. Now, we see at the end of last episode, Hibiki is trying to get through to Chris, trying to use talk no jutsu, basically, as people like to call it. When you try to, like, talk your opponent out of fighting and shit. Um, but it doesn't seem to be working too well on Chris. She's kind of not well, to put it simply. And that's nothing against Chris. It's that she's being manipulated and tortured and everything. It's completely on Finé, but still, Chris is not in a good place. She's not doing well mentally and emotionally. So, yeah. And we see that in the end, Hibiki does have to fight. She does have to attack her. And she doesn't do so in an aggressive way. She does so in a way like she's trying to help her. Which is like, you don't see that a lot in shows. Like, a lot of shows, a lot of anime will have the characters just fight. Um, Even if there is like an attempt at talking ahead of time, they still just go into a fight. So you don't see it too often when a show is like, oh yeah, I'm going to attack you, but I'm not going to do so with an aggressive feel to it. It's going to come across as more, I guess, self-defense, you could say. I'm trying to help you, and so I'm not going to be as actively aggro as I could be. I don't know if I can think of a specific series with that. Like, I mean, it kind of, you could say, is in the game Digimon Survive, which I've been playing lately. It's kind of in there, but that's not a series, and it's mostly static images, so you don't really get to see that in action. But they kind of do that, like where they fight enemies they don't want to fight and are doing so just in terms of self-defense. We see Hibiki hit her, and I believe that's where the episode ended. Now, this episode, I know does have a post-credits scene, and this is apparently the only other one in the season that does, besides a couple episodes ago, which I ended up seeing anyways because of the lack of regular ending credits. But yeah, this one does apparently have a post-credit scene, so I will be watching for that. But this leaves us, pretty much about halfway through. Just over the halfway mark, pretty much, because I talked about it last time, how we're basically halfway through. And it's like, because there are 13 episodes, and this is episode 7, so there's no real half point for 13 in terms of episode count. So it's like, you could count both episodes 6 and 7 as the halfway point. So this might kind of, what I'm thinking, come across as a mid-season finale of sorts, since it's clearly going to connect to the last episode pretty notably. I don't know, like, to what degree it will and what that will mean. Like, are we going to get some big reveals? Are we going to find out some more information? Is Chris going to actually fucking listen to Hibiki? Are they going to find out that they're working with the bad guy? Like, how's this going to go down? I'm just genuinely curious. But I guess we'll find out. So, all of that being said, let's get this going. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. I actually went and checked the first episode again. Just the opening scene, and the scene with Miku going to the to Hibiki's grave, and basically what she said is that Hibiki kept singing despite the blood coming from her mouth and everything, and it presumably is what led to her death and all. But it's like, again, Hibiki's the main character here. She's not gonna die. So, is it a case of her death that ends up being faked to protect Miku? And I assume this means that Miku and her maybe don't even make up? Or, if they do, they make up like right before some major battle happens that causes Hibiki to use her superb song. I assume that's why she would be singing while blood is coming from her mouth, you know. So I assume that the end of the season is probably going to be a big battle with Finé, I would have to assume. And that's, I assume, where she's going to first use her superb song. She's going to survive, but they're going to fake her death to the point where it'll allow her to, you know, continue to do her job unfettered, while Miku isn't in on the know on it. That's the only thing I can presume from that. But let's actually talk about this episode. So, it starts off with just continuing where we left off, with Chris and Hibiki's battle. Chris, you can tell, is starting to get, like, not really convinced, but she's starting to get, like, confused by all of this. It's starting to get to her what Hibiki is saying and how it flies so against what she's been taught by Finé. And so we also get a glimpse at what their goal is. They seem to have this kind of this ideal in their head that the evil that they're doing is for a good cause. Something about stopping a war from happening, and you know, it seems like they think that they're saving the world. And I think that there's a lot more to that than I can honestly guess on right now. I feel like trying to theorize about that only at 7 episodes in won't do any good. I feel like there's got to be a lot more nuance to that entire situation and that entire line of thought than we've come to understand this far. So I'm not even going to try to worry about that at the moment. But we see Finé basically appear to everyone. Everyone's able to see that she's there. And she cuts off Chris. She's basically saying, like, I don't need you anymore. I don't want you anymore. You can fuck off for all I care. It's like, basically the idea is, you failed me for the last time. I'm done with you. And we see that even despite the fact that she uses a second relic, which involves her singing, which she didn't sing before. The thing, though, is, like, Finé said it was a Symphogear. So is the second one she used, was that an actual Symphogear instead of just using the relic on its own? Now, that was a relic that had gone missing 10 years ago. Like, long before all of the rest of this stuff, and long before the first one went missing, the Hushtan. So this was a completely different one. And so, we know that Finé is, I want to say Ryoko is her name. We know that she's the one who created the Symphogears, right? So it's not out of the question that she could have a Symphogear have been made for Chris, and that Chris just doesn't use it normally because she hates singing and everything. Or she said she hates singing. I don't think that's true, by the way. I think she actually loves singing and has just been manipulated into thinking it's bad because apparently her song destroys. I don't know the depths of that. I don't know the details of that, but again, that's something we're going to have to wait to find out more about. But yeah, it's like, so is that second one we saw an actual Symphogear? That's what I'm wondering. And I'm sure you guys will answer in the comments. Um, but yeah. So she drops Chris, but Chris refuses to basically listen. So after Finé leaves, Chris starts to give chase, and we then focus on everything else going on. Miku is brought down to have everything explained to her and to sign an NDA, and Hibiki has to be, checked up to make sure she's not too injured and everything. Also, didn't mention it yet, but Tsubasa came and helped out Hibiki a little bit, and basically just showed that she's fully on board with working with her now. That she's gotten over her edginess and her grumpiness over the fact that it's Gungnir and everything, which is good. And again, I do think that the near-death experience probably was one of the contributing factors for that. But it's good to see that she's willing to work with Hibiki now, and that she's no longer just being bitchy about it. And again, I understand why she was. I very much get why she was, but it's also good that that didn't last long. That would have been a little insufferable if it had. And also, I want to mention as well, before we move on, that Hibiki saved Chris from being hit by one of Finé's attacks. She actively saved Chris, which it very clearly flustered her. It very clearly, confused the shit out of her. She was upset, and she didn't know how to react to it. She didn't know how to handle it. I think that Hibiki is definitely the key to redeeming Chris. Chris is obviously going to be redeemed. And I think Hibiki's the key to that, because Chris has this idea that humans are terrible and fucked up and just, not good. That she can't trust them in anything. But it's clear that Hibiki's positivity and kindness and everything is going to win her over eventually. And it's clearly already started to connect with her. I think that seeing the difference between Finé and Hibiki is going to be what allows her to come over to the side of good. Miku, meanwhile, is pissed. She is very upset, and I don't entirely blame her, but at the same time, I really hate this. I don't know how clear it was during the reaction, but I was upset. I was on the verge of crying. Which shows you how invested in this series I've become. I was on the verge of crying because I didn't want to see them fighting like this. I didn't want to see Miku so upset at her. But I get why she is. I fully understand. Hibiki was lying by withholding information. She was being dishonest and making up excuses for why she was gone and what she was doing. And mind you, Hibiki didn't really have a choice. She had to keep it secret. And I think Miku knows that. I'm sure that they explain that to her. But Miku still feels betrayed. She feels that Hibiki is the closest person in the world to her. That's very clear. It's very gay. We know. Hibiki is the closest person in the world to her. So to be betrayed, or seemingly betrayed to that much of a degree by her, would be crushing. She feels like she can't trust her. But you could tell by the end she wants to. She still wants to trust her. She still wants her to be friends with her. But she doesn't feel like she can. That's why at the end she says, though she's crying when she's saying it, that I don't think I can be friends with you anymore. You know she wants to be. She's just so upset by what happened and so upset by finding this out, especially in the way that she did. Like this is something I really want resolved quickly. Just like the entire thing with Tsubasa, being bitchy towards Hibiki at the start. I'm glad that was resolved quickly and didn't last too long. I really hope it's the same thing here because I can't handle that. Okay, um, like we've seen how close they are, and the fact that they've shown us this, the fact that they've actively shown us how close Miku and Hibiki are, it honestly makes me really attached to them as best friends or, shipping as a couple. And so seeing them have like this kind of breakup in a way is heartbreaking, especially when it's basically because of misunderstandings and lack of transparency with each other. I feel like it wouldn't have happened if Hibiki had told Miku just that she's doing something important that she can't say about, or like she doesn't have to give details or anything. She still like adheres to that, but she just tells her it's like I literally can't tell you. Like even if she could even say I'm not allowed to tell you unless part of the I guess NDA is like you can't even say that, which would be ridiculous, but um like if she could just say that, I think Miku wouldn't be as upset as she is. But the fact is Hibiki was not just hiding it. She was actively making excuses. She was leaving Miku behind during times and moments and situations in which Miku very much wanted Hibiki by her side. Things that they were supposed to do together, things that were important to Miku. She already felt like Hibiki was growing away from her. She already felt, in a way, betrayed. But she still gave Hibiki the benefit of the doubt because they're best friends, because she cares for her, and she trusted her. She trusted that whatever was going on, it's okay. But then for all this to be revealed like so suddenly to her, it's like, yeah, that's going to break that trust quite heartedly. I really hope this is resolved soon. Like I said that I'm thinking that it could be like she might not find out, or they might not like get it might not be resolved before the end of the season, before the entire thing with the gravestone comes to a head, or it might be resolved right before then. Honestly, I really would rather have it resolved like next episode, pretty much. I don't want this. Just like Hibiki, I don't want this. It's genuinely upsetting to me. And I think part of the reason is because of the fact that I've had friends betray my trust. I've had friends abandon me. And of course, situations were very different. And some of that comes to, when I came out. There were friends who basically stopped being friends with me because I came out as trans. And it's fucking horrible. It's absolutely fucking horrible. And so, like, seeing friends fight in the first place is already, like, something I'm not a huge fan of because of stuff like that. But seeing a breakup like this, when it's, again, you've been shown how close these two are, And when you've grown to, become invested in a series like this, it's like, yeah, it's gonna hurt. And it hurts. It very much hurts me to see this. Um, but let's talk about Chris. Chris is wandering the streets, just, upset at everything that happened when she ends up coming across two kids. She thinks that the brother is bullying the sister, and even after he explains that he's not, she still, like, is about to go at him for that, and it's like, Jesus, chill. It's like, you really don't trust humans at all, do you? It's just like, okay, that's basically been said, but Jesus, chill. And what throws her off is when the sister jumps in front of the brother to protect him. Because it's like she thought the sister was being bullied. And so the sister jumping in front to protect him is something she would not have expected. The funny thing is, like, this is so obviously her. Despite the torture, despite the abuse, despite the clear manipulation, Chris still goes to serve Finé again. She's still trying to serve her again. Despite being actively attacked by her, despite being told that she's no longer useful to her, Chris is still stepping up to try and serve her. This little girl is very much like Chris in that regard. And that's why it throws her so off, because she's seen this from an outside source. No longer just, internalized. She gets to see it for herself. Someone who she thinks is being bullied, standing up for the one she thinks is doing the bullying. And so it's a shock to her system. She doesn't know how to handle it. She sees these two protecting each other and learns that that there was no bullying going on. And it's like, at this point, it's like she's so thrown off by this that she kind of agrees to help without even really, like, to help them find their father without even really, like, giving it a lot of thought. And I think that Hibiki's influence, Hibiki using her talk no jutsu on her during the fight, is also influencing her here. Chris is starting to see a different side to humanity. So she takes them around the town and eventually does help them reunite with their father. He thanks her, and she asks the kids how they can be like this. And they're like, yeah, we fight, but we make up, and it's all good, and we love each other. And Chris is just, again, so thrown off by this. Chris is seeing humanity. Not what Finé has told her humanity is like, or what her past before Finé might have been like. Because I believe there has been implications that that Chris did not have a good past. That shit was not great, even before Finé, kidnapped her. So Chris has only experienced one side to humanity before. Seeing a completely different side, one that is so opposed to her mindset on what humanity is a shock to her system, and is making her rethink things. And as we see in the end credits, she does still go back to Finé. But Finé once again attacks her. She attacks her and is clearly trying to kill. Like, maybe not going all out, but she brings out her own armor and is definitely going in to kill her. Chris is, like, so thrown off by this. She's so upset by this. The only person she felt she could trust you see the tears in her eyes. You see her heart breaking. Like I said, I don't think Chris is going to be redeemed right away. She's going to have this vagabond arc, I guess you would call it, of her just roaming around, maybe experiencing humanity and realizing how wrong she had been. How wrong to trust Finé she had been, how wrong to hate humanity she had been, and even how wrong she had been about hating music, about singing. Because it's very clear that's not the case. It is very clear she loves singing. She just had a very bad experience, apparently, from what we can tell, and she's traumatized. She's a trauma baby. We know this. This is not new information. It's just a new, specific, new details. And so we get to see kind of a glimpse at what Finé can do with her own relic. And it's like, okay, where is this going to go? Like, I assume again that Finé is going to be the final fight of this arc. That Hibiki, Tsubasa, probably even Chris are going to have to team up to fight against her. And I assume that shit is going to go down. But, like, how much stronger is Finé than the rest of them? That's what I'm wondering. What exactly are we going to see happen as this goes along? And what the fuck was she talking about when she was alone in the lab there? Like, she was dropping some interesting shit on us that I am definitely going to have to see again or hear you guys talk about in the comments to really understand. You guys can probably explain things. Obviously, if spoilers are involved, no spoilers, but still. Yeah, it definitely seems like Finé and Chris as well, I guess, definitely had this idea of like of we're doing bad things for the sake of good. The ends justify the means. Evil to save the world. And it's like that's a very common trope. There's a lot of villains who think that way, a lot of villains who think that they're doing the right thing. Hell, you could there's a movie coming out that I'm really excited for that seems to show the same kind of thing. I've only seen the first trailer for it. I know there's a new trailer, but I'm not watching because I don't want any more spoilers for it than what the first trailer showed. But it's called Knock at the Cabin. It's the new M. Night Shyamalan movie. And basically the gist is bad guys come to confront this family by doing some bad shit, and basically the idea is like, oh, well, we're just trying to help things. We're just trying to be the saviors of the world here. You have to just, like, kind of abide by that. And it's like, I'm trying not to give specific details, so, but it's like, oh, you're those kind of people. Okay. The movie stars Dave Bautista, though. So that's fun. He's one of the stars of it. Rupert Grint is in it. I can't remember the names of the actors who are in it as well, who are kind of, I guess, more main characters. I can't remember their names. I don't know. Either way, yeah, it's it kind of gives me those same vibes. And again, I've seen this plenty of other places. You have villains who think they're doing the right thing, and it's a realistic thing. That's definitely been a thing with a lot of bad people in real life. Terrible, shitty, horrible, evil people who think that they're in the right. Honestly, it's more common than, bad guys knowing that they're bad guys. most villains, most evildoers, both in real life and in fiction, don't know or don't realize or don't like believe that they're the bad guys. They see themselves as either the heroes of the story or as just people doing what they need to do. So it's really interesting that that seems to be the case here too. But it also seems like, again, there's a lot more to this that I can't even begin to theorize on yet. There is way too little information, and I just know, knowing me, I'm not going to even remember it all as it is. But yeah, so tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of Symphogear? Let me know, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.